Finance Committee meeting, and we'll start with the roll call. So we want to go around and, I don't know where you start the roll call. Do you start the roll call?
Pretty much with all the commit.
Just the commissioners?
I'll defer to Brad.
Go ahead, Al.
Yeah, let's do,
Al Burns, PSTA staff.
okay.
Diane Randall, Director of Risk Management, PSTA.
Hello, and I'm Brad Miller, I'm the CEO of PSTA.
Rob Walker, proud commissioner, great city of Dunedin.
Max McCann, City of St. Petersburg, Citizen Representative.
And I'm Barb Hazelden, Citizen Representative for the County Commission. So with that, we'll start the meeting, and this is time for public comment. If anyone has a comment, do we have anyone who would like to have public comment? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on. So the action items, I add action item 3A. We have to approve the February 19th minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And the financial audit report. So we'll have Debbie Leah speak to us about that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. Today we have Lauren Strope, who is our partner with Jerry Beckert, and Dwana Coleman, who is our senior manager on the audit. We've now completed the financial audit, and I'm gonna ask that Lauren do the presentation of this, and we've got the clicker right up here. And I also, while they're getting set up, I just wanted to point out, this is something that takes a lot of work by a lot of people all around the entire agency, but I'd especially like to point out, we have some folks in the back of the room who are from our accounting department. They do the journal entries, they do all the work. We've got Pam Wrights, Jeff Gow, Mark Schroka, Ken Knapp back in the corner there. There's other people in the room who also have input that you get to talk to all the time. Of course, our famous accounting director who does like the yeoman's work on putting it all together, Al and Diane and even Devin, he's somewhere in here, provides us with data that goes into the report. And Shelley's in the back, so thank you, Shelley, yeah. So it takes a village to put this together. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Lauren.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me here today to present to you. Again, my name is Lauren Strope and I am a partner with Cherry Beckert. This is Dwana Coleman, she's a senior manager. For full disclosure, I promise you I'm a better auditor than I am a presenter. But with that disclaimer, let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so this is an agenda of what Dwana and I are gonna cover today, but really we're just gonna walk you through the results of the September 30th, 2024 audit and how we went about completing it. So this was your full-time client service team. Again, my name is Lauren Strope and I have the pleasure of serving as your engagement partner. We have Dan Goddard and he does a second partner review. In our industry, it's called a cold review, meaning after my team and I come up with all of our conclusions, he goes in behind us and makes sure that we crossed all of our T's and dotted all of our I's. We also have Steve Siegel, who's our firm technical director. He actually sits right next to me in our Tampa office. And then we had Dwana, Jack, and Matthew, and they did all the heavy lifting here. In addition to the folks on this slide, you have a lot of firm resources at your disposal at any time. We have a former GASB fellow who served as a member of the Standard Setters who's come back to our team. And then we also have an entire government advisory practice, and I mention this because it has a lot of folks in it who served in local governments here in Florida. So we have all of those folks at our disposal as we complete our audit and to answer any questions that your team might have throughout the year. All right, kind of the big slide of the day, if you will. This is the most important one. So we have audited your financial statements and we are ready to issue a lot of different reports. We actually issue 5 different reports when we do this audit. So the first one is Generally Accepted Auditing Standards Report, and that covers your financial statements themselves. We are ready to render an unmodified opinion, which sounds a little silly. Used to be called unqualified. It's a clean audit opinion. It's the highest level of assurance that we as your external auditor can provide. It's the only type of opinion that you want. Additionally, we have to follow government auditing standards when completing your report. And we are ready to issue a no comment letter or a clean letter as it relates to that. And we'll go over that here in a second. We are also required to have a management letter under the rules of the Auditor General of the state of Florida, and we are prepared to issue a no comment or a clean report there as well. We do complete 2 different single audits when we do this audit. One covers your federal expenditures, one covers your state expenditures. For each, we select your major programs and projects. And then we test both the compliance and the internal controls over that compliance for every applicable requirement. And we are prepared to render a clean opinion on both your federal and your single audit award, so clean opinions there as well. And last but certainly not least, the state of Florida also requires us to issue an examination over your investment policies and the compliance there. And again, we are ready to issue an unmodified or a clean opinion there as well. So 5 different reports, 5 clean opinions. All right, so as far as the internal control communication, I did mention that government auditing standards report, and that requires us to look at internal controls over your financial reporting. We actually don't provide an opinion on that, but to say whether or not we found any significant deficiencies or material weaknesses. We are pleased to report that we did not note any material weaknesses, and if you were to look at the statement of findings and question costs, which I did not make the title of that, you did not have any findings or question costs, that's just the title of the report. You'll see that we are also not reporting any significant deficiencies. So no material weaknesses and no significant deficiencies are disclosed in the report. The professional standards do require that we communicate with you, those charged with governance, if we were to have any audit adjustments or past audit adjustments or corrected or uncorrected misstatements. And what that means is after management provides us with the trial balance, if we as auditors have to say, hey, the following entries really need to be made in order to bring this in compliance with GAAP or generally accepted accounting principles, that would be an audit adjustment. We are pleased to report that we did not have any corrected misstatements or audit adjustments. We are also pleased to report that there were no uncorrected ones. That would be the exact same situation, only management, for whatever reason, says, hey, we're not going to post that particular entry. Common occurrences where that happens is if it's a misstatement that's found kind of later in the game after the financial statements have been created. But again, we are pleased to report that we did not have any of those. Your financial statements have a lot of different policies adopted. If you look in note 1, that'll talk about all the different accounting policies that you have. If you were to look in note 1 this year, you will find that you did adopt a new standard this year, GASB 101, related to compensated absences. We spent a significant amount of time looking into that and all the calculations that management provided to us. And there is a restatement as it relates to that, which is disclosed in that footnote. But again, we found it properly implemented and we did not note any of inappropriate accounting policies or practices when it comes to your financial statements. As part of our audit, we are required to look at any sort of related party transactions or relationships to ensure that they're either properly disclosed in the financials or an arm's length transaction. There were no significant related party transactions in your financial statements, and we were pleased to report that during our audit, we did not find any additional than were already mentioned to us by management. So good news there. As far as significant or unusual transactions, this is very particular to each entity, but there were no significant or unusual transactions to PSTA this year. That does not mean that you did not have a lot going on in a very busy year, just like you do every year, but it does mean that according to the accounting standards, there are no significant or unusual transactions that I need to disclose to you today. And with that, I'm gonna kick it over to Dewana to go over your significant estimates.
Thanks, Lauren. So each year during the audit, we have to review management's estimates just to make sure we're comfortable with the underlying assumptions. Some of those estimates that we look at are the OPEB liabilities, useful lives of capital assets, just to make sure that we're not depreciating a building, for instance, for 3 years instead of the standard 40, just those kind of things, the things that we're looking for as we review our estimates. Some more would be allowance for doubtful accounts, of course, our lease receivable, estimate of compensated absences liability. Just want to make sure that we are, like I said, comfortable with the underlying assumptions and that we review the calculations as it relates to management's estimates. We're comfortable with those estimates. There was nothing to note there. The financial statements are clear. disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. There's nothing additional that we report there. Like Lauren said earlier, we have no findings or anything to note for you as it relates to the financial statements. As part of our audit, we may or may not complete some non-attest services. We submit the data collection form, which is a form that's for your federal programs. We have to report that over to the federal government, so we help you by submitting that data collection form. And every year we make sure that we are independent to PSTA and we're independent to PSTA. There's nothing to note there. Some other required communications that we have to disclose. There was no difficulties encountered, no disagreements with management, no outside consultations, and then we'll receive the management representation the date of the report. There's no other findings or issues, fraud or illegal acts, and PSTA is not a growing concern, but of course, if we were to find anything, this would not be the first time you would have heard about it, would be something that we have communicated and talked through prior to this, but there was nothing to report as far as these issues are concerned. And just some other matters as it relates to the other information required, supplementary information. For the required supplementary information, we of course may increase the management and value the content of the report. And then for the other information, we just make sure that it was, for the introductory statistical sections, we read it, make sure that it made sense in relation to the basic financial statements, but we don't audit the other information. And then of course, because we cannot get a break, we have some upcoming financial reporting changes. So we have GASB number 102 for risk disclosures, 103 for financial reporting model improvements, 104 for disclosure of certain capital assets. And of course, we will be working with management to kind of talk through the potential aspects of these as they come up. But these are some new things coming down the pipeline as it relates to GASB upcoming reporting changes.
Did want to mention on these that the last couple of implementations that you have had included a restatement of your net position. None of these will. These are additional disclosures or just changes in the names of line items on your financials. But it shouldn't have any impact on your beginning net position amounts.
Yes. So just more exciting things to read within the acronym. And then of course, are there any questions for us about the report or the presentation?
No? Well, if there are no questions, can I call for a motion to accept the audit as reported?
So moved. Second.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, great. Great job, everybody. That's a lot of work. Next thing on our agenda this morning is the computer refresh project. And Keisha Harris will be talking about that. Good morning.
Good morning, Vice Chair. Good morning, committee members. My name is Kessia Harris. I am the Director of Information Technology with PSTA. I am here to recommend an approval for a 5-year contract with YNS Technologies for our computer refresh in the total amount of $492,000. The $492,000 includes the win and bid amount of $428,000 with a 15% contingency, which is the industry standard. This is a routine computer refresh, which the industry actually recommends business computers be renewed every 3 to 5 years to maintain efficiency and optimal performance. The agency's last computer refresh or rollout was done in 2018, which was almost 7 years ago. We are overdue for a rollout, another rollout. I would like to mention that the longer we wait, these computers will continue to see increased performance issues. So for us to be more efficient and implement cost-saving measures for this computer refresh rollout over the course of several months, we conducted a comprehensive survey across various departments and collaborated with staff to determine the most suitable setup for each employee. We determined employees would be set up with either a laptop and a docking station as a primary workstation or a more traditional setup, which is a desktop. So one device as opposed to 2 devices throughout the course of the COVID era. We also spent time to carefully select workstation specifications that align with the employees' work demands, ensuring both performance and durability for the next 3 to 5 years. As you can see, if you refer to your table in your packet, there are 14 companies submitted or bid on this solicitation. In accordance with procurement requirements, 11 of those companies were deemed non-responsive, leaving 3 responsive or qualified for the bid process. In the end, YNS Technologies won the bid, coming under budget. We then confirmed with the OEM, which is the original equipment manufacturer, that YNS Technologies is a verified VAR, value-added reseller. We have a $500,000 allocated for this project. We were able to meet that goal at $428,000. This also includes 5 years of maintenance and installation. With that, I recommend approval for a 5-year contract with YNS Technologies for our computer refresh project at $492,000.
Any questions?
Questions from me?
I just have a couple. I saw that this is agency-wide. Does that mean we do every computer in the agency?
Not every computer, but at least 90%.
Okay,
Throughout last year, there were computers that we had to change out because the performance was at a point where it needed to be replaced, but most of the computers.
got it, okay. And I see on the last page, fiscal impact, it says grant funds. Does that mean we have a grant that covers this?
Yes, it does.
Okay. And I assume those funds are, like, they can only be spent on this. They're out, what's called earmarked funds, right?
They're not earmark funds. This comes from our, what they call formula funds. We get money from the Federal Transit Administration every year. And we get a list of projects of needs that we have. So we've set aside money within that grant with FTA saying this money is designated for technology, specifically hardware and software. And I would like to mention as well, Kessie has mentioned the $500,000 budget. Well, we had an additional $100,000 for the software. This includes everything, so it's really quite a significant savings that we can then take those FTA funds to another need.
Okay, thank you.
I do have one question, Madam Chair. Just to confirm, I know you mentioned it, but it does 5-year refresh? Is that what the policy is?
It's industry recommends 3 to 5 years.
3 to 5 years?
Yes.
Okay, all right, but it's been 7 years since the last refresh.
Correct.
Okay, gotcha, okay, all right, no further questions.
Okay. So do we have a motion to accept this?
So moved.
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Great.
Thank you. And the next item is multifunctional printers and copiers. So Keisha, you want to continue on? Thank you.
Hi again, good morning. My name is Kessia Harris. I am the Director of Information Technology with PSDA. I am here to recommend approval for a 5-year contract with Advanced Document Solutions, Inc. for our multifunctional printers and copier refresh in the amount not to exceed $160,000. Again, this is a routine replacement, a routine refresh. The industry recommends we replace our printers every 5 to 7 years for optimal performance and compliance of office-grade printers. Here at PSDA, we have ensured these machines are regularly serviced to prolong this life cycle. So we've actually had them for the past 7 to 10 years. However, as time goes on, maintenance costs increase to keep these printers and copiers operating at optimal performance. We reviewed the printing usage of all printers we intend to replace, and similar to the computer refresh, we spent time carefully selecting printers and copiers specifications that align with the agency's demand and modern technology, ensuring both performance, security, and durability for the next 5 to 7 years. If you refer again to your the table in your packets, you will see 6 bids were submitted. 3 of those were deemed non-responsive. After further review, after further reviewing the proposals, we reviewed and found that Advanced Document Solutions, although the second highest bid, met all of the most salient characteristics required for this solicitation. Some of those characteristics included the print speed, the print resolution, and the tray capacity. This was budgeted at $160,000, and it came within budget. This solicitation is 100% turnkey, so it does not include contingency, because there are not as many variables compared with computer refresh. If you look at, and again, this was based on a recommendation by our procurement director, Al Burns. In addition, the solicitation also includes maintenance service agreement with the vendor who can provide additional support when needed. With that, I recommend approval for a 5-year contract with Advanced Document Solutions for our multifunctional computer printer replacement for an amount not to exceed $160,000.
Any questions? Well, I do have a couple questions about that, because I think that, when the printers, I just wonder why we can't wait as we have problems with printers, as opposed to computers. I think computers are different. But the printers, I know at my house, I replace those printers when I need to replace a printer, not just at a scheduled interval. And I just want to throw that up to talk about a little bit about the need to replace these printers. And then the second question that comes up to my mind too, what happens to the old equipment that is obviously still operational, both computers and printers? This is a lot of hardware. So what is you don't take them to Home Depot, do you?
I'll answer the first question. So although there is industry standard to have the printers replaced 5 to 7 years, we have gone 7 to 10 years. We do have a vendor that we pay to maintain the printers and copiers. But as I mentioned, the longer you have them, the more because these printers are used constantly, especially on the operation side. Mm-hmm. And we did review the print speed, we did review the print usage, and it's a lot. The more they get used, the more the maintenance costs are going to increase. And with technology, technology is moving 100 miles per hour. With the new printers now, they offer a lot more security, a lot more features than what we currently have. So in terms of keeping with technology, it's best if we replace what we currently have, which has been worn out, with brand new printers that will last us for the next, we will at least try to take them to the next 10 years if we can.
Okay.
And for the, I will let Al Burns respond to the question for what happens to the equipment.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Al Burns, Procurement Director. That's a very good question, and one that we've been planning for, because if approved, we could have a lot of surplus equipment on site, and we don't want that. There's a company that my team is in discussions with, and I've dealt with at other, I've done business with at other agencies by the name of Gov Deals. And what they'll do is they'll publicly auction off that equipment and make sure that it's all clean. And when I say clean, not only from a sanitary perspective, but also wiping down the computers to make sure that they're completely wiped. All those proceeds and I'll coordinate with Julie Lupus's staff, because all those are considered capital assets and part of the GASB and all that good stuff. They'll auction the equipment off. We'll get the proceeds of that auction, and then Julie Lupus and the accounting team, they'll get a check mailed here to the agency. So that's the plan that I currently have, but I'm open to any suggestions that you may have.
Is it a lot of money?
The computers are old. But that's normally the process, and the reason I'm speaking to it is because I'm responsible for disposal of all company assets.
Right. Okay. So, but those are Windows 10, right?
Correct, the computers, yes.
Yeah, they're mostly
Yes.
10. So they're gonna be outdated in a few months
Correct.
with the 11,
Yes, ma'am.
yeah.
And the same is applicable with the printers that this action item is for. One of the things Kessia spoke about was the routine maintenance, and we have to pay a company monthly pretty much to come out here, and parts are breaking and the equipment is just becoming
obsolete.
Yes, thank you. That's the perfect word.
Okay. Any further comments or questions?
I'll just say I'm glad you asked that. I was wondering the same thing about what we do with the old equipment.
Right. Okay, well, good. Well, can I have a motion to accept this?
Next,
So moved.
second.
All in favor?
I
All opposed? Thank you, motion carries. Thank you for your great presentations. I apologize for mispronouncing your name. I keep wanting to put an H in it. The next item, I forbid, isn't that funny? Talking about going to auctions. I've been to many auctions. Okay, the Clearwater Station artwork contract. And we have Elizabeth Fazio, who's project manager, Amanda Baird, will be talking about that. Thank you.
Good morning, Vice Chair and Committee. My name is Elizabeth Moskak Fazio. I am the project manager here at PSTA working on the Clearwater Station. Here today to ask for an approval for the code requirement for the key corner artwork that we need to actually have on the corner of this station, which I will get into in this presentation. Recommended an approval with RDG Planning and Design for the design, fabrication, and delivery, installation and delivery of this key corner artwork. Again, it is a required key corner public art, and it is for an amount not to exceed $300,000, which is in our budget for this project. Now here is a map from the City of Clearwater redevelopment code, and it is very, very busy, but as you can see in yellow is actually our site where we will be constructing the Clearwater Station. If you're not familiar with it, it's about 1,000 feet south of our Park Street terminal, which is in orange there. And on the corner, you will see, I indicated the green square, which indicates a key corner. For the key corner, it needs to be basically a public space, either a retail, restaurant, or somewhat of a public plaza. Now, since our site is so space constrained, we were unable to actually meet the code with the retail or a restaurant. So we worked with the City of Clearwater and we kind of developed a little plaza here, and this is what this artwork is fulfilling. I will now hand it over to Amanda Baird, and she will tell you about the artist and the artwork.
Good morning, I'm Amanda Baird, Director of Communications and Marketing. I'm also the leader of our resident crew of right brain creative artsy folks. So I'm here to speak to you today a little bit about the art. As Elizabeth indicated, there are several key corners throughout downtown Clearwater that are designated for this type of space. So because we knew we had one of those corners, we baked artwork into the overall project budget. This is not an additional funding request, this has been budgeted from the very beginning. I also want to speak a little bit to the very extensive selection process we went through to identify an artist. We collaborated directly with the City of Clearwater, had equal representation from the city and from PSTA on the selection and evaluation committee. The city issued the call for artists, and we received 147 portfolios, which is a staggering number of portfolios to look through. We, in that first round, narrowed that 147 portfolios down to 5 artists whose portfolio, experience, expertise indicated that they would be a good fit for our site and for the City of Clearwater's overall vision within the Downtown Development Code. We then invited those top 5 to submit specific written proposals for our site. Gave them dimensions, renderings, anything that they might need in order to determine from both an engineering perspective and a visual aesthetic perspective what's gonna be the best fit for our little corner of Clearwater. Those 5 proposals were very in-depth, talked about material specifications and aesthetics, so left brain and right brain in all of those proposals. From there, we narrowed it to our top 3 who we invited to interview and present their proposals and talk a little bit more in depth about the thought process that they put behind the artwork that they were proposing for our site. From that top 3, those interviews and presentations, we selected our top artist. I'm pleased to report that there was total consensus across the board from both us and the city in selecting Matt Niebuhr, who is the director of the art studio at RDG Planning and Design. Matt and his firm have done public art across the United States, which you can see the little points on this map are all the locations where their artwork has been deployed. And we're very pleased with the artwork that he proposed for our site specifically. With the direction from Downtown Development Code that this needed to be a public plaza, plaza implying, you know, a gathering space, somewhere that people could congregate while they wait for their bus or pick up a cup of coffee. Matt brought to us this artwork titled The Cloud, which is functional artwork, combining a very aesthetically pleasing shade structure with some seating below. This will be on that corner of Court and Myrtle. So it's a very tight space, but I think he's using it very well. The idea behind calling it The Cloud is that these 2 shade structures, one is a solid reflective metal surface and the other one has color painted on the top of it, so that when the light changes as the day goes on, it's gonna look a little bit different. It's gonna interact with the environment while providing much needed shade in the Florida sun. As part of our selection process and our interviews, we talked to Matt about safety, about materials resiliency in the Florida sun and in the event of storms. We talked about all the considerations from Clearwater City Council, from Clearwater staff, from our staff, to make sure that this was really gonna be the right fit. And I'm very, very excited to work with Matt. He's a wonderful, pleasant person to work with who thinks with both sides of his brain about this type of work. So with that, I'm gonna hand it back to Elizabeth to talk through a little bit more about the project and what to expect next.
Okay, the future board actions, one is this key corner art that is required by the city of Clearwater. The next up will probably be the construction agreement with CSX, and we will be bringing that because we basically have Southeast Avenue, which is the railway tracks there. So we have to kind of coordinate with CSX on that. And the other one is the construction award for the construction contractor. Right now, we're 90% design with this facility, and we will be bringing that shortly. Already working with it with our procurement director, Al. So we are on the move. Recommend approval for an agreement with RDG Planning and Design for the design, fabrication, delivery, and installation of the key corner artwork for an amount not to exceed $300,000. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any
Any
questions?
questions about that?
Not for me.
Okay, I have a question. So can you go back to the slide before this?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, the last item, project
Yes.
construction contract award, yet to be brought forward. So I brought this up with Abhishek, which I know Abhishek has departed, PSTA,
Yeah.
but and so, but the project construction contract award at 42 million. I showed Abhishek last month or whenever it was the last time he spoke, a rendering that I had seen a few years ago. I think I saw it on the Business Journal. Okay, it was a drawing, and it's in the rendering. It shows a light rail parked at the Clearwater.
Oh.
You've seen that, haven't you, Brad?
Yeah, a while ago, I think, yeah.
Yeah. So I keep things like that.
Okay.
So I just wanted to make sure or discuss the fact that this light rail line as a potential is not included in the project construction contract.
It definitely is not.
Okay.
None of the 42 million is for a
No.
light rail.
No, I'm not saying for the light rail line, but even for any kind of a station,
Yeah,
what am I trying to say? accommodations for a future station
Elizabeth, do you wanna go back
stop.
to that one slide that shows the overall rendering there? That one.
Yeah, there.
That one. And you could point out the tracks.
I don't know, where's the beeper?
It's, I think this bottom.
So at the top of the rendering there is
here it
is the
Oh, there,
tracks.
that's good.
At the top of the rendering is the tracks that go north-south through downtown Clearwater. And I do remember, I don't know when that rendering was done, but I think I remember which one you're talking about. It showed the possibility of the future that somehow the tracks would be used, maybe probably not for a light rail, but for some other kinds of transportation, and the city of Clearwater asked that the transit center design has our waiting room and retail space right there at the corner. And then sort of a little parking lot, and then the building, that one right there is not ours, that's a day spa.
That's a what? A
that's
day spa.
a private business,
Uh-huh,
right along the tracks there.
uh-huh.
So there's nothing planned for any kind of station or use of the tracks at all.
Okay,
Theoretically, 40 years from now, when this finance committee is meeting to replace this, maybe there'll be something new, I don't know.
right,
but,
right, right. No, that's just my question.
Yeah.
It's not in the works as
It's
far
not
as
in the works.
having an accommodation for that. So, well, I mean, like the Howard Franklin Bridge, it's got a light rail, it's got a rail line.
It's got the substructure is strong enough
carry.
to allow for a future rail. There's no, when it opens next week,
So
it's
I
not
just
gonna have
wanted
a
to
rail.
make sure, or not make sure, but just discuss whether
Yeah.
that was also being planned throughout the community.
Yeah.
So, that's my question.
One question I
Uh-huh.
had related to this, that $42 million project cost, that's the whole project, right? The whole transit station?
Yes, that's the
Okay.
construction of the transit facility, yes.
Okay, and just a comment, in the city of Dunedin, we embrace our public art. And, it's a specific budget item every year, and it fulfills one of our 6 goals of creating a visual space. And so anyway, I love the idea.
Thank you.
Will you wanna make a motion?
I'll make a motion, yes, so moved.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Wants to be like that either.
Well,
That's why they have this rule.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. And our last item today is this claim settlement, and Diane Randall's gonna discuss that.
Good morning, Diane Randall, Director of Risk Management. I'm here this morning to seek recommendation for approval of a claim settlement in the amount of $44,500 with Michael Boatner. This incident occurred on November 20th, 2022, when a PSTA bus ran a stop sign and struck Mr. Boatner's vehicle. As a result of the accident, he sustained injury to his lower back and has had several medical procedures since the incident, and additional surgery in the future has not been rolled out. The medical costs to date are approximately $31,000. This settlement is within our established claim file reserve and will end all liability for future medical costs and defense expenses as the case is litigated. So therefore, I'm here this morning to seek approval for the claim settlement in the amount of $44,500 with Michael Boatner. I'd be happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
I do, you don't mind.
Okay.
I like risk management. I think risk management is important, and my brain is attuned to it for professional reasons. So tell me, I'm curious, was liability disputed here? Were there questions of fact about whether the bus ran the stop sign?
No.
Okay, and given
We have
that,
video, just so you know, we have videos on our buses,
right,
which makes liability determination
a little simpler,
very
I imagine.
much easier.
Do we take remedial or retraining action in this kind of scenario?
Our transportation department does that. We don't get involved in that aspect of it, just to stay neutral. But for all accidents, they are reviewed by our safety team. And they make recommendations for whether it's a preventable or non-preventable and any remedial actions required.
Good, thank you.
And
Yeah, sure.
I mean, when Diane comes to the finance committee, it's sort of the end of a long saga for these claims, as you know.
This is short.
She does, well,
Yes, it
This
is.
is November 20, this is
Yeah,
less
this
than
one is a
3
short
years,
one.
yeah. In my.
on a
it's been
regular
getting much
basis,
longer.
Diane does have a meeting with the operations folks to go over claims, the claims process and accidents that have happened over periods of time. Cause I think it's good to remind everyone, this, you know,
This is the result.
this is, yeah, it costs money.
Yeah.
And so that there is a lot of coordination and then retraining and focus on analysis of like what kind of accidents are happening, what are the high dollar ones that happen and all that to modify our safety and training of our employees.
We have that meeting quarterly and we discuss the quarterly claims and then any outliers that we may have. And if we're seeing trends, cause we're reviewing every video for every accident that could become a claim.
Yeah.
So if we see something that we're seeing on a frequent basis or something that we think needs to be looked at, we do notify the safety team.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, do we have a motion to accept the claim settlement?
Move approval.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, any opposed? No, motion passes. Thank you. And next we move on to information items with Al Burns.
Good morning, Madam Chair, Al Burns, your highly motivated procurement director. And today I'm here to give you training on how to evaluate an RFP. And just so everyone pays attention, there will be a short quiz after the presentation, okay? So, if you were to come into my office, you'll notice that I have a lot of posters and they talk about bribery and kickbacks and bid rigging and conflict of interest, and that is the emphasis on the importance and the integrity of the procurement process. And I just want to applaud PSTA and the procurement team and everybody here that we really take this very seriously. I'm also so thankful that you all are going through this process, because that's the same process that Julie's goes through when she has RFPs, Kessie, Amanda, staff. So you're getting a taste of what staff does on a regular basis. But I do take this very seriously, and just to kind of highlight some of the other procurement things or activities across the nation that have happened. For example, Wisconsin accountant found guilty on conspiracy to over $260 million in small business contracts. Man sentenced to nearly 6 years in prison for defrauding DOT DBE program. Airport official, 10 years in prison for record-setting bribe and kickback scheme. What I'm charged with is being a good fiscal steward of the taxpayer dollar, and we take that very seriously. Also in this great state of Florida, there's the Florida statute. Bid tampering, it's a second-degree felony. Can end you in 15 years in prison with a $10,000 fine. And there's the Florida statute to support that, to support this slide. I just bring that for sticker shock, just to show the importance of the procurement of the procurement process. I'm gonna, at the end of this presentation, I'm gonna talk a little bit about bonfire. And Commissioner Walker, I have to give you a gold star, cause you're the first one that logged in and registered in bonfire, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But in there, when we go through, I'll talk a little bit more about how that relates to bonfire, but as it pertains to confidentiality and conflict of interest. You're not allowed to meet with the people who are submitting on the auditing service. You can't meet with them by yourself. You can't talk about it amongst yourselves and say, hey, what did you think about that proposal, Max? That is prohibited. And then also, one of the most important things is you can't disclose your scores to the offerers or the people that are submitting. Understanding the evaluation process. So this is a high-level chart of what the RFP process looks like. And I wish Jacob was here, cause he could point to it, but.
I mean, you borrow my arm.
Oh, there you are, Jacob. So right now, we're at this, excuse me. We are at this I don't need Jacob. We're at this part of the process. Yesterday, you may have received emails from Bonfire asking you to register. Those are not spam emails. Click on the link and we'll talk a little bit more about it. But the goal that I have is one, to take this to committee and board. And then afterwards, we'll talk a little bit more about debriefing. And that's not the debriefing that Brad and I have when we have on Fridays our libation. These are debriefings that I have with the contractors who do not get awards. And Commissioner Walker, I'm sure you understand what I'm talking about when I say debriefing. The evaluation process is a two-step process. Individual scoring is what you're doing now. Group scoring we will do at the next finance committee. I would ask you respectfully to block out time on your calendar so you can have time to review the proposals. I know Amanda had used to be the record 21, and staff sometimes has to block out a whole day on their calendar to review proposals. Don't worry, you're not gonna have to block out a whole day, I don't think. Individual scoring, when you're going through this process, what I would ask you, do not score based on anything that is not included in the RFP. You have to score based off of the documentation that is in front of you. You can't perform any research of any nature outside of that. If you have a question, like how are they planning on getting this accomplished in this period of time or something like that, contact me, I'll contact my deputy, David, and we will get you the answers that you have. This is a big one, and I know it's hard to do. If you see a company's name, first thing instinctively you wanna do is get on your phone or get on your smart device and Google it. That is prohibited. What to consider when scoring a proposal? Completeness. The proposal should provide specifics on their approach, not merely repeat or paraphrase the RFP. And they should also, at the end of the day, offers experience and demonstrated understanding of the contract requirements outlined in the scope of work. Documentation. It's extremely important that you document why you gave someone a certain score. If you're present at the debriefing, and I'll just pause for a second and talk about debriefing. It costs companies a significant amount of money and time to submit a proposal and respond to a proposal. And when they don't get that, and when they're not awarded the contract, a lot of them wanna sit down with me and my team and say, hey, Al, why didn't I get this? The only thing that I have to rely on are the comments that have been put in your scores. That's the only thing that I have to rely on. So I'm just asking you respectfully, please be cognizant of that. When you write your comments, and I apologize, I don't mean this any kind of way, be detailed, clear, concise, and professionally stated. As the last two bullets say, they may be used for debriefings or even litigation. I'm gonna give you some real life examples of written comments. This is part of this was one of the evaluation criteria. Offeror must describe its ability to devote the necessary resources to complete the scope of work within budget and schedule. And this is what someone wrote. That was their comment. Details provide confidence. And that does nothing for me when I go to debrief. This is another comment that someone wrote on the same solicitation. The offeror has an outline of their process throughout the document provided. They have dedicated staff departments for budgeting, purchasing, production, and quality assurance. When I go to meet with someone, I can speak to this all day long. This one right here, I'm probably picking up the phone and calling somebody and saying, hey, I need more than that. So that one passes. Evaluator scoring guide. Use the evaluation criteria established in the RFP to fairly, objectively evaluate technical proposals. Ensure all offers, proposals are evaluated in a fair and systematic manner. Commissioner Walker, Commissioner Hazelton, you might be a hard scorer and you might be a more lenient scorer. That's okay. Just be consistent in the way that you score. The benefits provides a consistent approach to an evaluation of proposals and easy to understand. When finished scoring a proposal, ask yourself, did the offeror demonstrate sufficient competence to be awarded the contract? And if your scores don't represent that, I kindly ask you to go revisit your scores. Last month, I brought this to you, the action item, for approving the evaluation criteria. And this is the evaluation criteria that you received, that you approved. Have no fear. I talked about it before. I'm gonna emphasize it now. You have people here to support you, and they are known as advisors. They have these same proposals. And the people that are reviewing them, Amy, Vince, Rebecca, they're the Julies and the Debbies of various organizations. I would respectfully ask you to look at how they scored in their comments as an additional resource when you're scoring your proposals, when you're scoring these proposals that we've received. Group discussions. That's known as the evaluation committee members. That's what staff knows it as. Prior to group discussions, you might have questions, and I'll just emphasize it again. You might have questions when reviewing. I'm gonna give you my home address, my cell phone number, my email. Just reach out to me and I will get you the answers. And these firms will be super responsive in getting back to the procurement department. Group discussions are used to ensure evaluators have a common understanding of the proposals. Commissioner McCann, when you're reviewing, there might be a blind spot that you, Commissioner Hazelton, might see. And I say different vantage points. When Commissioner McCann, he's gonna be looking at it maybe from a legal perspective, I'll say, right? And be looking at certain things. And he might not notice things that you notice. That's the value of group discussions. During group discussions, evaluators may determine whether a formal presentation is needed. In this procurement, the top 3 firms will present to the Finance Committee. Next month, we'll talk about the proposals. And then at that time, you'll say, hey, Al, I want to have everybody come here and present. Or you might say, hey, I want just the top 2 or 3 or whatever. Whatever your will is, that's what we'll do. And I can tell you, these firms, they are used to giving presentations specifically on auditing services. Important reminders, contact me if you have any questions. And I will get back to you ASAP. Proposals shall not be discussed outside the evaluation committee meetings. That's next month. And individual scoring, did I do that? Individual scoring is just that, individual score. I'm sincere in that last statement. Thank you for your time, it's greatly appreciated. I know this takes time out of your busy days to evaluate the proposals. Bonfire. I love it. You're gonna get an email. It's gonna look very similar to something like this. And I don't know if we have the time, I'll look at Brad. There's a short video right here that I would strongly encourage you to watch.
Hello, today we're going to take a look at the evaluator's experience in Bonfire. As an evaluator, you will have received an email that you've been invited to take part in a project or that some criteria has been released for your review. So we're going to start at the login page, and this is where you can type in your email and your password. So once you've done that, go ahead and click login. And this will take us to our active projects page. So here we can see any of the projects we've been assigned to review. We can see the status of the project, so we can see if it's in the open phase, the evaluation phase, or the completed phase. You'll notice that if it's in the open phase or in the completed phase, you're not able to complete any evaluation. But in the evaluation phase, you can see your progress and you can keep track of all your evaluations. And this is a great way to hold yourself accountable and to make sure that you are completing your reviewing. You can also see the days left, so we can see we have 128 days before our evaluation.
That was just a brief snippet, and I didn't want everybody to fall asleep while watching the video. I know Brad was like, "This is interesting," right? But I would really strongly encourage you to watch the video to help. And once again, I am your personal resource for this if you have any questions. But after you log in, that's the video that you just did a quick commercial break for. And it's gonna look something very similar like this. And when you click, before you're able to click on anything, you're gonna be asked to fill out 2 forms. Certificate of conflict of confidentiality and conflict of interest. Before you're allowed to look at any proposals or anything like that, you have to fill these forms out. I don't think any of the Finance Committee members, we're gonna have a problem with that, but if you do have a question or concern, once again, reach out to me and I'll assist you through that process. So what I'll say in closing to the presentation is, one, thank you for your time. And I can't emphasize enough, before the meeting is over, I'm gonna give you all my contact information. You'll receive an email from me. The email's gonna have a couple of things in it. It's gonna have my contact information, and it's gonna have Exhibit H, which is known as the scope of work. And it's gonna have Exhibit B, which is the evaluation criteria. Those are the 2 most important things. And what I would stress to you is, read the scope of work first. And if you have any questions, contact me, and I'll get in contact with Ms. Lupus, and we'll get you a written response. If you, Commissioner McCann ask me a question, and I'll get that, but I'm gonna share it with everybody, because it might be a question that everyone might have, but just didn't think of or didn't give a chance to ask. I'm gonna share that in the form of an email. So before 12 noon, probably while the planning meeting is going on, you're gonna get 2 documents from me. You're gonna get Exhibit H, which outlines what we want the auditor to do. Everything that we want them to do. All the reports, all the deliverables that I like to call, they'll be outlined in the scope of work. The second document you're gonna get is gonna be Exhibit B, which is the evaluation criteria which you approved last month. And then after you review those, if you have any questions, get in contact with me, I'll get in contact with Julie, we'll get your responses, and then I would go and log in and start the bonfire process. The goal next month is we'll sit here and we'll go over those proposals. It's kind of different because we're on YouTube and people are watching, but have no fear, I'll guide you through that process and we'll go through it very, very professionally. If there are any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
Yeah, if you don't mind, when do we expect the proposals to be available for evaluation?
Now,
They're live?
yes, sir.
Got it, okay.
You're
Thank you.
sending them.
When you open that bonfire link, you will see
They're
the
in the
proposals.
portal.
They're
Is the
already there.
bonfire coming from you?
No, it's coming, very good question. You're gonna get an email that's gonna be from Bonfire.
From bonfire,
That is not spam.
yeah.
Click on it and then
So we're gonna
launch
get
the-
3 emails,
Say it.
2 from you and 1 from bonfire.
You get one from me with Exhibit H, and
Oh,
Exhibit
okay,
B,
1 from you.
and my contact information, and then you'll have another email coming from Bonfire. Commissioner Walker, you probably won't get another email from Bonfire because you already received one and you opened it.
Have we already received one?
You should have, yes,
And
ma'am.
we thought it was spam and didn't open it?
Yes, ma'am. Let me know, and what I'll do, what I'll do, and I'm looking at David right now, and he's nodding his head, he's probably already hit resend invite. So, as
Make
we
another
speak,
one.
you probably got another email.
Okay.
And then maybe I'll just reiterate, what is their assignment to have done by the next finance committee in April?
Evaluating the proposals.
Score what?
Evaluating the proposals or scoring the proposals.
Yeah, there's a place right in the bonfire where you type in your number, your
Yes.
score.
Oh, and the password, what is the password? How does that work?
I can't say that out loud. Okay, I'll.
Okay. Oh, you showed it on the screen, but it was Xed out.
The user creates
Their own
her
password.
own
Oh, okay,
password.
okay. Okay.
Now I've probably forgotten that password. On the process chart you showed a minute, or in the beginning, is there orals presentations associated with this solicitation?
That's what you know, so.
I would say, I've been doing this for a little while, and that this is one of the most important procurements that we do as an agency. That is up to you, but my recommendation is oral presentations. The firm that you'll be selecting will be doing a deep dive into all of our financials, and what I feel most comfortable with is having a group discussion or just talking with the people that we're about to potentially hire.
Would that be, what does that look like? Would it be a down select on the top 2 or 3, and then that's who would be invited to the orals, and
Yeah.
then we would, those would be additional meetings though, I presume, right?
Well, my plan is, it's refreshing to have somebody that knows procurement, the procurement process, Commissioner Walker. What my plan is, unless you advise me otherwise, is next month, we go through the group discussions. And after that group discussions, you'll say, Al, I wanna talk to the top 2, 3, or whatever, and have them present. Then at the very next finance committee, they'll come and present, and after they present, then we'll decide who we want to
Okay,
recommend to go before the board.
okay. No, that's, yeah, sounds,
I mean, theoretically, next month you might just totally want, all agree and not have it, but probably not.
what's the anticipated contract award date when you need to award that contract?
I think I have it slated for June, committee of June board or May, committee May board.
Nay.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Wait, I heard May.
It is May.
Okay.
I almost got something thrown at me.
Interviews in May.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Good
I don't think, to be very candid and transparent, I don't think we're gonna have any issue meeting that date. And just give me a call. I really encourage you to give me a call if you need any help or any assistance, whatever. Independently, obviously, but I'm here as a resource for you.
Yeah, card.
I'm gonna find them. I'm gonna find them.
Another comment if you don't mind.
Sure.
You mentioned that if we ask you a question, you're gonna email it to the group. If you haven't already, consider whether that's allowed under the sunshine rules, because that might be considered discussion by the board outside of a public meeting when it's circulated. Just flagging that for you.
I appreciate that. And I hadn't thought that actually through, so I'm glad that you mentioned that, and I'll talk to Alan to see how that should be coordinated, sir. I appreciate that.
Risk management, always going up here.
When you said that, I just had to laugh.
Okay, any further discussion?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you very much, Al.
You're welcome, Madam Chair.
And our next item is ridership performance with Devin Deal.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Finance Committee. My name is Devin Deal, Planning and Data Analyst Manager. And today I'm gonna go over some of our operating highlights, just our general ridership, and then I'm going to dig into the Summerner Corridor and how that has changed over the years since we implemented the service. So first of all, this is our total system ridership by month. You have fiscal year 25 in red, fiscal year 24 in green, and fiscal year 23 in blue. You can see so far for the first 4 months of fiscal year 25, all months except October, we exceeded our previous fiscal year ridership. If you remember in October, we had Hurricane Milton, some beach shutdowns, we did lose a little bit of ridership with that. But aside from the month that we had the hurricane, we are exceeding our 2 previous fiscal years ridership. And so now I'm gonna dig into the Summerner a little bit. So what you see here is a map of what we call the Summerner Corridor. This is pre-Summerner. We consider the corridor to run from downtown St. Petersburg over here, all the way along the First Aves in Central down to Pasadena, where it travels on Pasadena Ave down to Gulf Boulevard and then takes that down to St. Pete Beach. What you're looking at here is the 2 main routes that served the corridor before we launched the Summerner service. It was Route 18 in blue that ran from downtown St. Petersburg over to and took 9th up to Tyrone Boulevard and travels to Clearwater. That came every 20 minutes at peak service and 30 minutes the rest of the day. And then we had the Central Avenue Trolley in green that travels from downtown St. Petersburg. It went all the way over to St. Pete Beach along Central Avenue, Pasadena Avenue to Gulf Boulevard. After we launched the Summerner, we reduced service on Route 18. As you saw previously, it used to travel all the way to downtown. We truncated it at Grand Central, and then the Central Avenue Trolley in green used to travel all the way down to St. Pete Beach, but we truncated that at Grand Central as well. So Route 18 now goes from Grand Central to downtown Clearwater, and then the Central Avenue Trolley goes from Grand Central to downtown St. Beach, or to downtown St. Pete. And the Summerner itself covers, it's the orange line you see here. It runs along the First Aves and then deviates down to hit USF St. Pete, comes back up to that, there's a Publix down here at 3rd Street and 3rd Ave where a lot of our routes run north-south that connect to the Summerner and the Central Avenue Trolley. And then it travels along the First Avenues, all the way down again to Pasadena, down Pasadena Ave to St. Pete Beach. What you see here is 3 years of data on the Summerner. We have fiscal year 22 before we launched the service in the corridor. We have fiscal year 23, a full year of service with fare free on the Summerner, and then we have fiscal year 24, a full year of service with fares being charged on the route. What you see in blue is the Route 18 ridership in the corridor. This is not the whole route ridership, this is ridership on the stops that serve the corridor. And then in green, you see Central Avenue trolley ridership in the corridor. You see in fiscal year '22, it was only the Route 18 and the Central Avenue trolley primarily serving that corridor, and there was 720,000 rides in the corridor. We launched the Sunrunner in October 2022, this month right here. The Sunrunner ran about 10 days this month, and then November was our first month of full service. You can see in the first year that we launched Sunrunner, corridor ridership over doubled. We had a 106% increase in corridor ridership. We went from 720,000 rides in fiscal year '22 to nearly 1.5 million in fiscal year '23. And the bulk of those rides were carried by the Sunrunner. In fiscal year '23, the Sunrunner had 1,058,000 rides. That is over 300,000 more than the entire corridor had by itself in fiscal year '22. We can see after we began charging fares in the Sunrunner, that started in October 2023. Ridership did drop. You can see from September to August, there's a pretty steep drop. Went down 30 to 40% after we started charging fares. However, corridor ridership still remained really strong. And you can see fiscal year '24 still significantly outperformed fiscal year '22. We had 1,150,000 rides in fiscal year '24. The Sunrunner made up about 750,000 of those. And so again, in fiscal year '24, the first year with full fares in the Sunrunner in the corridor, there was a 59% increase in ridership from fiscal year '22 pre-Sunrunner. And also, you can see right here, the highest month of ridership in the corridor for fiscal year '22 was March. It doesn't really come close to the lowest ridership month in the corridor since we've launched the Sunrunner. You still see a drastic increase in ridership from pre-Sunrunner to post-Sunrunner, even after we began charging fares. And so we measure stop ridership in boardings, people getting on the bus, and alightings, people getting off the bus. This shows our top 6 ridership stops on the Sunrunner. We'll start in downtown St. Petersburg over here. There's that 3rd and 3rd at Publix where riders can transfer to a lot of our routes. And then we have 1st Ave North and 5th Street where a lot of riders who are getting on the Sunrunner to leave downtown, that's typically where they board. This data was before we launched the Pierce station. We are anticipating a lot of that ridership to shift to the station at 1st and 1st. But still, you can see downtown St. Petersburg ridership is very strong. You see Grand Central in the center of the route with around 140,000 rides last year. And then traveling down to St. Pete Beach, you have 56,000 riders got on at 75th Ave in Boca Ciega. That's where you can connect with the Suncoast Beach Trolley. And we had around 54,000 riders get on at St. Pete Beach. And this really highlights the key destinations that Sunrunner is connecting and why it is so successful. We have downtown St. Petersburg connected to our main transit center in the county, which then connects to another one of our main tourist destinations down in St. Pete Beach. So for alightings, where people are getting off the bus, it is again a similar trend. You see a lot of riders getting off down there at the Publix in downtown St. Petersburg. And then again, Grand Central, some of our highest ridership, roughly 150,000 people got off of Grand Central in fiscal year '24. And then again, down in St. Pete Beach, you see really strong ridership, people getting off the bus. And I also want to point out here, this Gulf Boulevard and 55th Avenue, we call that our Tradewind station. They are one of our UPass partners who pay us so that their employees and their guests can ride for free. And that had 42,000 riders getting off there in fiscal year '24. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions?
No questions, just a comment. The analytics on this are outstanding. That really tells the story. I guess the only question I would have is that from '23 to '24, there was a slight reduction. Was that because it was free in '23 and then it was paid in '24?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you, great presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, I agree, Devin, that was helpful and it's interesting to visualize this. I'll just say my own experience is because of I live pretty close to the Sunrunner corridor, and because of things like transit and pretty good bike infrastructure. My wife and I are able to get by with just having one car. So that's one less car on the road because of projects like this. Just wanted to throw that out there and say thanks. Appreciate it.
Okay. So my comment, first of all, I love this presentation. I spent quite a, and as a matter of fact, I marked the same place as you mark. Because there has been a lot of cannibalization of the Central Avenue trolley from 2022. Because I remember when you were, promoting this Sunrunner, it wasn't called the Sunrunner then, the BRT, the Central Avenue BRT. And the possibility of cannibalization was pretty obvious, and that is what has happened. And then, of course, stopping the Central Avenue trolley then at Grand Central, I think that, and I really wasn't able to completely come up with the answer to this, but it seems that the Sunrunner is, most of the ridership is from Central Avenue downtown and back. From the Grand Central. So it's not going all the way out to the beaches as much as people are using and utilizing that kind of loop downtown from 34th Street downtown. Wouldn't that be appropriate?
It is, it's a combination of both, certainly. I think that we have a lot of riders who are working or who are getting on and off at Grand Central and traveling downtown or to the beach for work. But a system that serves those service workers well also works for tourists who are utilizing our service, because the people who are working and riding the transit to work generally work at the places where most of the tourists are traveling to in downtown St. Petersburg and on St. Pete Beach.
Mm-hmm. And I know after the situation with the free rides out at St. Pete Beach and and all of that kind of situation, then, as I recall, the city of St. Pete was gonna step in and pay fares for certain individuals to continue to ride.
Right.
Is that still going on?
Well, they ended up not doing that.
Oh, they didn't do that, okay, I didn't,
Yeah.
that's why I asked.
They only wanted to do that if the whole Sunrunner was would be fare free. And when all that happened with the St. Pete Beach and everything, the board decided just not to do it
Okay,
and just implement fares across the whole corridor.
okay.
Yeah.
So everyone is paying,
Now, the one thing, just, can you go back to the ridership, that one? The city is and has for a long time paid for the Central Avenue trolley, the yellow, or the green, to be free. So your point about whether or not most of the Sunrunner ridership is between downtown and Grand Central, just in the kind of the downtown area. Maybe Devin, maybe it might be true that that's the majority, but you have to pay to ride the Sunrunner, and it's free. You can get a free ride to downtown from the Grand Central on the trolley. So that would indicate that maybe, I'm just not sure if.
I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
Because it just seems like that the majority of the numbers are from Grand Central looping downtown.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that and wonder if that's what your analytics would say to you.
Yes, ma'am, it is, downtown does have really strong ridership, but we see it in both directions from Grand Central. The First Ave North station at Grand Central travels west to the beach, and the First Ave South station at Grand Central travels east to downtown. And I think you can see here we had 70,000 people get off on the southern station traveling towards downtown, and then 88,000 get off at the north station. For boardings, you see a similar trend. So I think your point is correct that there is more riders boarding on First Ave South heading to downtown
And
than there
looping.
is boarding on First Ave North and heading to the beach.
Yeah, well, I just think that is important for us to to note that.
Absolutely, and that is one of the key points of the Sunrunner, right, to connect Grand Central, our riders who have come from all around the county to downtown St. Petersburg and to St. Pete Beach. So exactly what you're describing is the kind of utilization that we hope to see.
Okay. All right, so any other questions or discussion? Okay, all right, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
I thought it was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so,
Great presentation.
does any other, let's see, I think, oh, Julie, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I'm on the back of the.
Yeah.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Julie Lupas, Director of Accounting. Very thankful the audit is over. But looking back at January's financials, we finished with a $3.1 million net deficit, which was $1.6 million favorable to the budgeted deficit. Revenue is $1.1 million favorable to budget, driven by timing differences in the property taxes. Expenses are $479,000 favorable to budget, driven by services expense and privatized transportation. Turning to the January year-to-date financials, we finished with a $45.5 million net surplus, which was $1.2 million favorable to the budgeted surplus. Revenue is $1.2 million unfavorable to budget, driven by passenger fares, the timing of property taxes, and the state grants. Expenses are $2.4 million favorable to budget, as most areas are also favorable to budget in that category. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Okay, seeing no questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other business? Does any committee member have any other business they want to bring? Max?
No,
Okay, all right. So the next meeting is April 16th at 9 o'clock. And if there's nothing else, this meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice meeting you, thank you.
Great job.
Thanks.
Yeah.